Good morning, NFI. It is Friday the 12th of May, and I am a Bioware fanboy. Bioware are a game development company that were founded back in 1995, but I didn't really discover them and become a fan until the early 2000s with the release of the game Neverwinter Nights. That's a role-playing game set in the Dungeons & Dragons world, and everything about that was excellent. For me, the key to a good role-playing game is the ability to create your own character that you can then become invested in, and the more different options you have to create that character are what gives the game replayability as you try different permutations. And Neverwinter Nights gives you a full range of options from all the Dungeons & Dragons classes, from warriors and paladins and barbarians to wizards and mages and sorcerers, with everything else in between. And along with that, in the game there are lots of little details that are related to the character you have chosen. Characters will respond slightly differently depending on your race or class choice, and things like little minor events like a wolf you can only talk to if you happen to be a ranger who can talk to animals. Nothing really major, but lots of little details that make it rewarding to play through the game a second time as a different character. When it comes to character creation choices, and then the game responding to those choices, Neverwinter Nights is the game I go back to and compare any new release to. But after Neverwinter Nights, Bioware sold their rights to Dungeons & Dragons to Atari, and moved on to the Star Wars universe. And in 2003 they released Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, and this is what cemented my love of Bioware. I love fantasy roleplay, but science fiction is definitely my favourite setting. There are less options when it comes to character creation, but there are still quite a few, and that is offset by the far bigger world and much better story. And while I've probably put more hours into Neverwinter Nights, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic has become my favourite game of all time. It's a bit of a time commitment, I will admit, but not quite as much as some of the big open world role-playing games we get nowadays, and it's only £7 on Steam. It often goes on sale, so I think everybody should at least try it. Since then, after two major hits with me, I have been following Bioware with an avid interest, and I'm always excited to see what they're going to do next. The next game after Knights of the Old Republic was Jade Empire, which is another very good game, but I didn't actually play that until quite a few years later, because originally, unfortunately, that was an Xbox only exclusive. Moving forward from there, we get into the area you're more likely to have heard of these days with the release of the first Mass Effect. As I mentioned, being a sci-fi fan, I loved the fact that it was a massive open world space adventure, but at this point we're starting to see less of the character creation options that I love so much. There are plenty of options for how your character looks, but far fewer about your character's backstory and statistics, which then leads to less of the slight variations in certain things depending on what character you choose. The technical behind the scenes reason for this is easy to see. At this point, characters are starting to become voiced, and it becomes prohibitively expensive to start recording so many different alternate takes of certain lines just to match different possibilities of the character that a lot of players aren't ever going to see. So while I understand that is unfortunately an inevitable reality of game development, it's still a bit disappointing, and I kind of miss the old days of Neverwinter Nights. But they do, at least at this point, continue to try and make up for that with better stories and better characters. After the success of Mass Effect, they decided to start their own new fantasy IP as well, and that brought the world Dragon Age. And the first game in that series, Dragon Age Origins, was almost everything I wanted in a brand new RPG. Multiple character creation options and different origin stories depending on the race of the character you made, leading you to see new and different things when you replayed the game rather than it being basically exactly the same again a second time. But while the game started with, I think, 6 different paths, they kind of quickly merged into one. And eventually that became a bit repetitive. I'd started the game multiple times, but I didn't finish it multiple times. And since then, it's been all about the sequels. We had Mass Effect 2 and 3, both of which were pretty good, although the addition of multiplayer to Mass Effect 3 is still a decision I do not understand and do not agree with. Given everything I've already spoken about so far, you can possibly tell that the hype for Dragon Age 2 was pretty high, but unfortunately that one turned out to be kind of disappointing. That's definitely BioWare's lowest point in my opinion. Dragon Age 3 managed to avoid a lot of those issues, but also had some new issues of its own. But I won't give full judgment on Dragon Age 3 because I've not actually finished playing it yet. And the same goes for Mass Effect Andromeda, which I haven't even purchased yet. This year I'm trying to play some more of my backlog before I buy any new games. I can't really justify buying Mass Effect Andromeda when, as I mentioned, I haven't finished playing Dragon Age 3 yet, and I haven't even started The Witcher 3. I will come to that later, after there have been some patches and some expansions. And so there we have the short tale of a BioWare fanboy. BioWare do get a lot of flack for the repetitiveness of Dragon Age 2, the terrible ending of Mass Effect 3, or the wonky animations in Mass Effect Andromeda, but they're only small things really in the grand scheme. Over the years they have provided me with many great hours of entertainment, and I still love them for it, and still look forward to whatever they do next. Do you have a favourite BioWare game? Tell me about it in the comments down below. Thank you for watching, and Kai will see you tomorrow.